Good evening, all, and welcome to the January 2nd, 2025 edition of the Zoning Board of Adjustment for the town of Plastow, New Hampshire. I'll call the roll, I guess. We are missing our note taker tonight, so please bear with me. Peter Bielo, I'm here. Mr. Unger.
Here.
Mr. O'Brien.
Here.
Mr. Murray.
Here.
Jonathan Gifford is excused, and our note taker is excused. Let's rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get into the meeting, I think we need to vote on the minutes of two prior meetings. Hold on here. September 28th, 2024.
26th.
2024. That's what happens when I don't have my reading glasses on. Would somebody make a motion on this?
I motion to approve the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Unger. And second?
Second.
Mr. Murray seconds. Any corrections?
No.
Not that I can see.
Okay, then, Mr. O'Brien, how do you vote?
Yes.
Peter Bielo votes yes. Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Okay, it's unanimous. The second set of minutes is the October 31st, 2024 minutes. Do we have a motion on this?
Motion to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien.
I second the motion.
Mr. Murray, thank you. And how do you vote, Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
I vote yes.
Yes.
You had to think about it.
You didn't call my name.
Ugh. Okay, so the minutes are out of the way. Okay, we have, the only thing like a case that's before us tonight is a motion for rehearing from Strategic Real Estate Management LLC, application for variance to permit use of 45 Westville Road, tax map 26, lot 36 in the Commercial 1 zoning district as an overflow satellite parking lot. So has everybody read the letters we received?
Yes.
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 Okay. So I think we need to go through this kind of point by point. So the only reason to do a rehearing is if we erred in our application of the law, or if there is new information presented. Okay? So bear with me for a second. I'm just gonna go to their argument. Thank you. Their first argument is that the use is permitted by right. So one of the things that we heard in the three meetings that we worked on this application was that the applicant went to the planning board. The planning board rejected them as not being a permitted use, and they came to us. However, once the planning board said no, the proper thing to do would have been to take the planning board to court. And they didn't take them to Superior Court, and we're well past the period of filing for Superior Court. So just as an overarching statement, that tells me that they agree that it's not a permitted use. when they didn't appeal it appropriately. And they've had 4 months. They only have 30 days, and it's been 4 months. So I think that kind of shoots down that overall argument. However, there's also a couple other issues, I think, with their argument. On page 9, section 4.1 area, they say that the language of zoning is clear that the permitted use allows for trailers with axles to be kept on commercial use properties. That's half correct, but those the several zoning articles they reference say only as auxiliary use, not as a primary use.
To support.
So the only way this would be a auxiliary, pardon my lack of pronunciation of that, use would be if they're arguing that the guard shack and outhouse are the primary use, and the 61 trailers there on 95% of the property are auxiliary, and I just can't see that as being a legitimate argument. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
No, I pretty much agree.
Yeah.
It's definitely not an auxiliary use.
Okay. They argue that the proposed use is fully consistent with the essential character of the neighborhood. Again, part of the neighborhood is commercial, but there's no use like this there.
Essential character, every other lot has an actual building that's used in the lot. It's not
Yeah.
just stacking up trucks.
And a bunch of those buildings are residential, both single family and multifamily.
Right.
So I have a difficult time with that. Actually, I went a little bit far. That's actually an arguing. So the use is in the public interest. The applicant argues that the board found the proposal to be consistent with the spirit and intent. It cannot find that the use is contrary to the public interest. I disagree. Those are two totally separate conditions for variance or criteria for variance. Page 13, item 7, noise will comply with the Plastow zoning ordinance. You know, we had that environmental engineer in here twice, and he couldn't explain his data. And the raw data he showed had noise levels that were 20 decibels and more above what Plastow zoning allows, and he couldn't explain how that was consistent with Plastow zoning, and nor could he even explain, frankly, where he took the data. It was very incoherent data. So it's not clear to me at all that it complies with the zoning. Page 14, item 8, the use will have less impact than other permitted uses. I guess to me, the operative term there is just permitted uses, not all permitted uses. Surely there can be less impact from other permitted uses, but not the ones they cite. Page 15, item 9, proposed use will not threaten public health, safety, or welfare. That's, again, that's not clear at all. I know there's arm waving to that effect, but, you know, increased pollution, more larger trucks trying to navigate Westville Road. And we saw what difficulty that one 18-wheeler had trying to get in,
Turn around and back.
turn around. Going hither and yon down the road is I would look at as a threat. Proposed use will not have greater impact than existing commercial uses. Again, that's neither here nor there. That's not a variance criteria. And then we get to page 17 where they discuss new evidence. That we have to grant a motion for rehearing to hear and consider new evidence, but there is no new evidence. They say they may have new evidence, or they expect to be able to offer new evidence from Amazon, but none is offered. And they expect to be able to offer new evidence in the form of legislative histories, but none is offered. So I'm not seeing any new evidence in here.
No. Now, the new evidence should have been included, with the motion for rehearings.
Yes, that's my thought, exactly. So, any other thoughts anybody has here? Jim or Jim?
Well, is the property values even addressed in this?
There is actually. They state that there's a statement in here that the abutter's property values the abutter, or property value decrease. The abutter referenced from 3 different vendors is incorrect, but we don't know that.
Right, because I mean, basically, each of the experts said it was anecdotal at best. They
Yep.
both used the same language, and we're not dealing with anecdotes. I mean, my own personal opinion, I mean, the property values has always been one of the major things to me,
Yeah.
because to me, if you own the property across the street and you're either living there or trying to sell that property, even if you were looking at a building across the street, is not going to affect it as much as 65 tractor trailers. It's just, an unusual occupancy. And I don't think there's any data that's going to say this won't affect property values. I know every time I've ever looked at a property, you look at what's around it and you try to make an informed decision if you want to look at that each day.
Okay. Now, in this, at some point or another, there's a mention that the property is unique as far as the hardship. The property is unique in that it has significant wetlands in the back of it.
Right.
But, and I think we discussed this at least in the third part of the hearing, that all the properties, many properties immediately north of them, as we go up Route 125, have significant wetlands.
Right.
That's where they used to haul out clay to make bricks. And there's tons of wetlands up there. I know Westville Supply, which is due north of them,
Across
700 or 800
tracks.
feet across the tracks. They have wetlands issues. Going further north, on the other side of the street, the storage unit place has significant wetlands in the back. We had to grant them. We ended up granting them a variance on that. We know Target, the lot that not Target, Tractor Supply is on, has wetlands, and there's again wetlands on both sides of the road as you go up 125. So it's not unique at all, in my view. So, do we know how we want to vote? Let's see. We got to get a motion first, but do you guys want to discuss this anymore? Any further?
I think we've hit all the major points here.
Okay. Then we need a motion. And remember, it has to be to grant.
Okay, it has to be. I move that we grant the request for a rehearing on this issue for the trailer storage on Westville Road, 45 Westville Road.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Mr. Unger. I'm just going to go down the row here. We ready to vote?
Yep.
Okay, then, Mr. O'Brien.
No.
Mr. O'Brien votes no. I vote no.
No.
Mr. Unger votes no.
No,
Mr. Murray votes no. Okay. Thank you, folks, for your time. We've got some other stuff to discuss here. Okay, so I see that there are a couple citizens petitions for the ballot. One of them is to make some changes to the zoning board of adjustment, make us to do several different things, to make us an elected body instead of an appointed body. The second is to disallow selectmen from being members of the zoning board. And the third significant change is to disallow town employees from being members of the zoning board. The immediate impact of that is that one of our long-term zoning board members, Mr. Gifford, wouldn't be eligible any longer. And the second is Patrick Kiley wouldn't be eligible as he is a member of the fire department. I don't know if, and actually no employee of the fire department, police department, et cetera, would be eligible anymore. How comfortable are people with that?
well, right now I see the difficulties we have in maintaining a quorum for our, committee meetings. And if we go, eliminate, a section, granted it's not a majority, but, a section of the town population, especially those who have an interest in serving the town of Plastow, I think it will make that much more difficult to come to having a quorum to even have our meetings. And secondly, if we go to an election, I've seen over the, last 4 or 5 years how difficult it is to get new volunteers. I don't know what effect, going to an elected board would have if we'd have enough members wanting to run or for the positions. But from a personal standpoint, it doesn't matter to me whether it's elected or appointed, as long as the people are willing to work to serve the town.
But logistically, it's an issue, getting enough people.
Right. And getting people to realize that it's something that you have to be trained for.
Right,
You're not just coming in your first meeting and knowing what you're doing.
right.
Because unlike some boards, we have set laws we have to follow. We're not just gonna.
Can't follow your heart.
Yep, exactly.
So I had a conversation with the chair of the selectmen, and I told him we were going to be discussing this. I mentioned we were going to be discussing this tonight amongst us, and I asked, would the selectmen entertain a letter from us stating our position, either support or opposition, and why, to the citizens petition? And would you folks be willing to entertain a letter in opposition with the reasons we just had? I could draft something and just send it out to each individual member and see if, make sure we're all in agreement before it goes anywhere.
Yep, that's
We
fine
don't have
with
to take a formal vote on it.
It's fine with me.
Yes.
Okay. Then I think we shall do that. Okay, I know this citizens petition is written up as being on the planning part, which means the planning board would have to, review it and, state, vote in favor or against it as individual planning board members. But it's not clear to me that that's where it's going to end up. It may end up being like last year's and being on the general warrant section, which is controlled by the selectmen.
In addition, the petition, cites chapter 673 and 674 of the New Hampshire Revised Statutes.
Yep.
And it's quite clear in there that this board can be elected, or it can be what it is, appointed.
Yes. It's up to the town to decide.
Correct. It's up to the town to decide. And, given the reasons that, Michael just spoke about, you request assistance from the public at every hearing here, looking for people to come forward and potentially, become, members of the group here, and you get no response. So I don't see it working if they go to an elected, because I think that in some limited private discussion with members of the existing board now, if it comes to it being an elected board, I don't think that all our members that are on the board now are interested in going through that ordeal of going through the process of being elected. Just say, I volunteered this to give my duties as best I can to the town, and if it's going to become more complicated than it already is, then you can kind of count me out.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
I've already stated I'm doing this as a volunteer. If I had to run for election, I'll just stay home. I've done a lot of volunteering between Boy Scouts and now this. I've done my time volunteering.
You do not owe anything to this town, Jim, especially with the amount of time you've spent in guiding those Boy Scouts through so many years. What's it been? 15? It's got to be 20 years now.
Almost 20 as of last year, because I retired.
Well, you're still a merit badge. You're not merit badge. Eagle Scout.
No, I retired. I'm fully
Quite
retired.
honestly, I don't see the need or the value for it to change from what it is.
Yeah. You'll note that no one's literally in the last, I've been doing this 20 years, plus or minus. I think actually a couple years longer. And we've never had anyone come before us or come to us and say, I want to be a member of the zoning board or an alternate to the zoning board, and not have us ask the selectmen to put them on is in one function or another. It's not as though the members of this board have been a filter for any particular set of beliefs.
Right.
Again, that could change in the future, depending on a lot of things, but.
Yeah. And just one other point I want to bring out is since we are a quasi-judicial organization or committee, that people have to be willing to take an impartial view of all the items presented for them and to make a fair ruling on it, and not to have any, not saying that they would, but not having personal feelings get into the way of the business.
Yeah, and that's difficult when you're running for election and people are asking things of you. I think that's very true. And in fact, while the RSAs allow the board to be elected or appointed, if we're quasi-judicial, look at our judicial. They're all appointed. All the judges of Brentwood, we don't do elections for judges in the state. On the larger scale.
Okay.
I can work with that, and if you guys will let me and give me a couple days, and I'll have something out to you. Okay?
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Do we have any other business?
I believe so.
No, I think that was it.
In that case, I call this meeting adjourned at 6:55.